your rent is covering your mortgage payments.
In Dubai, we're still originating loans at Mortgage Finder for 4.5%.
Everybody knows that today is a seller's market.
One key factor that I don't think we talk about much is interest rates.
And this whole perspective of Dubai being just a place for a few years has changed.
I think this is a unique case for the UAE. Welcome back to Home Finders, a podcast brought to you by Property Finder, where we bring you the ins and outs of all things real estate in the UAE. Today, we're here to talk to you about a very interesting subject that's been on people's minds. Is there a bubble in Dubai real estate market? And we couldn't be happier to have such an amazing guest here with us. We have Tahir Majitia, who is one of the founders of Prime Capital, very successful real estate company in Dubai, and also host of the infamous Dubai Real Estate Podcast.
Yes.
Tahir, thank you so very much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Mohammed.
Thank you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? I think you've been in the real estate industry for, a good 20 years now?
Yes. My real estate experience overall is 20 years. 10 years in Dubai, 10 years previously in India. So I've been doing real estate practically all my working life. And this is what I know: eat, sleep, breathe real estate. So we are a boutique company based in Dubai, catering to a lot of exclusive clients across the residential sector. And we also do, development advisory for clients who, people who want to build their own houses, villas, buildings. So we do that as well.
So you focus a lot on, let's say, investment advisory side.
Yes,
of
investment
real estate.
advisory and, building portfolios, especially investors who want to build a portfolio over a period of time, discussing what the plans are, goals are, and, assist them make the right investment choice.
Fantastic. And do you normally do you see that most of your property investors are coming from overseas, or are they living here in Dubai? Or is
It's
it
a mix of both, but mostly overseas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Let's dive straight in. Right.
Sure.
So we all know that, Dubai is now taking a solid position globally
Yes.
as one of the most innovative, happening, luxurious cities in the world.
True.
We're all fortunate enough to travel around and see how Dubai continues to elevate the bar, let's say, beyond any other global city. So
Yes.
it's been an incredibly hot investment market, right? Particularly in the past 3 to 4 years,
Super hot.
which usually in hot markets, the word bubble starts being exchanged quite regularly amongst people. And there's almost not a social engagement I go through, a lot of business conversations where, I see that question being thrown around. Is there a bubble? Should we buy now? Should we not buy now? Etc. So very happy that we have you here today to talk us through this. And I want us to approach it from 3 different angles, right? One is somebody who currently owns an investment property and is thinking about, do I hold or do I sell? The other angle is somebody who is considering investing in Dubai real estate. And the last one, which we've been seeing a lot of activity in, is people who are renting
Yes.
and considering to buy a property.
True.
So the questions that I want to talk about is, one, in your definition, what is a real estate bubble?
Look, a real estate bubble is a situation where the prices, first of all, are artificially inflated. They're not the real transactional prices. One is that. Second thing, there is not much demand, but a lot more supply. And also, at times when people are speculating, a bubble is usually created when there's a lot of speculators in the market. And when I say speculators means, people who are, say, for example, buying a property worth, say, 1 million, but they don't have the 1 million to pay. They're putting 10% down, 20% down, thinking I'll just exit and I'll, make a profit on it. When a lot of people want to speculate and make quick buck, that's when a bubble starts forming, when a lot of people start coming into the market with that kind of mindset. So that is what usually a property bubble is, where, prices, one, are not realistic. Rents are not matching up to the kind of prices which are being asked. So if you see Dubai today, yes, prices have gone up, rents have gone up, But are we in a bubble situation? I don't think so.
Hmm.
Because
So I think before we dive into whether or not we think so,
okay,
because I find it to be, and people ask me this question. Naturally, we are in a privileged position to understand the industry really well,
yes,
right? But even us industry professionals sometimes struggle to,
absolutely,
you know, in absolute terms, say, is there
absolutely,
a bubble? Because
true,
there's so many variables, right?
true,
Is it
true.
the location variable, the type of
Type
property?
There are a lot of variables. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm thinking, and one approach that we could take into this conversation is to say, what decisions, right, or what factors do we need to take into consideration
yes,
when making these decisions?
true,
Would we agree?
absolutely,
All right. So let's talk about one use case, right? Somebody who is, I don't know, a high net worth individual coming here from, Europe, or, even an average executive, coming here from some part of the world
yes,
and is thinking about buying an investment property in Dubai, right?
yeah,
When they go in, I find that a lot of investors, what they're doing is they're measuring Dubai's property performance against other global cities,
true,
right? I think when we look at it in absolute terms, correct me if I'm wrong, but when it comes to rental yields, Dubai is now at the very top of, I think a list of the 20 biggest global cities or top global cities in the world.
yes, it is,
Correct.
it is,
We're averaging. I mean, even I mean, I'm looking. I have some data that I was looking at Property Finder, but we also look at reports from the likes of JLL, CBRE, and
yeah,
etc. And I also saw a report that is positioning Dubai as essentially producing the highest rental yields in the world. the The question here is going to be about timing,
true.
right? What do you say to an investor or a potential investor looking at the Dubai real estate market and saying, the timing now is not ideal, I'm going to wait for things to slow down? How would you approach this?
See, two things we need to understand. One, Dubai has always been a high yielding market. Okay. It's not that it's the first time that rents in Dubai, the rental returns in Dubai are at 8%, 9%, 10%. No, this has happened in the past also. And in general, Dubai has always been a high yielding market. If today an investor is coming in, my view on it is that instead of timing the market, because that is something which is very difficult to time the market, what you need to make sure is when you're investing in today's market, you need to be smart. You need to know what you're buying and are you getting the right value? Because what happens is everybody knows that today is a seller's market. Okay, then people are commanding whatever price they want, they're asking. But at the same time, if you look at the market properly, you look for deals, you look and do your study well, and you price the property well and buy a right investment, invest at the right value, I think that is more important than timing the market. Because see, nobody can see, we can all make predictions, but we don't know for sure which way the market's going to go, what's going to happen to the prices or the rents, right? We can make predictions, we can make assumptions, but and there can be a lot of reports and things which we study and we see, but that's something which we cannot just guarantee that this is going to happen. But yes, when you're making an investment at that point of time, you need to make sure that you're making the right investment
Mm.
and you're making it at the right price. And there are a lot of variables, as you said earlier. A person should get educated about the market first before stepping in. And that's where I tell a lot of my clients that, listen, don't just rush into it, but educate yourself. Know what you're buying, understand what you're buying, what area it is, what kind of a property it is, what has been the history, what kind of yields that particular area is giving, what are the USPs, understand that, then get into it.
It's honestly, it's amazing. And by the way, this is why we've spent so much time and effort, and we've invested at Property Finder
Yeah,
and Data Guru. So we built these tools
true.
to essentially unlock that level of transparency, to enable professionals such as yourselves and your team to better advise their clients
Exactly.
based on actual data. And I was looking at Data Guru today, and I
Yeah,
looked at a couple of use cases, right? To sort of establish an understanding and help our audience, make these decisions.
yes,
And I'll share with you some of my findings,
sure.
right? So the selections that I made is a 2-bedroom apartment in
Yes,
JBR, right?
perfect.
Because it falls right there around
Yes,
the average home price
Yes.
for a 2 bedroom or the average apartment value in Dubai,
Correct.
it's about trading for roughly about 2 million dirhams
True.
in today's market. And I also looked at a 5 bedroom villa in Jumeirah Village Triangle or JVT,
Yes.
right? And I looked at historic performance versus today, and I got some pretty insightful numbers,
Yes.
right? So let's start with the 2 bedroom.
Sure.
That 2 bedroom villa, the 2 bedroom apartment in JBR is selling today for 2 million dirhams.
Right.
Back in 2019, right? And I'm using 2019 as a reference point
Perfect.
because I think 2020, we all know it's an anomaly, it's
Yes.
special circumstances. And 2019 was actually a pretty, I want to say difficult, but we can say it was a low year
Yes,
for
it
Dubai
was.
real estate.
It was absolutely.
Right? So I used Q3 2019 as a reference. That same apartment that is today trading for or selling for 2 million, Q3 2019, it was selling between 1.3 and 1.4,
Perfect.
right? So that means that home price appreciation is about 55%.
Right.
Meanwhile, that same exact apartment was renting for 80,000 dirhams in 2019.
Yes.
It is currently renting for 160,
Correct.
right?
Rental appreciation is 100%.
So home price appreciation is 55%.
Yeah.
Rent appreciation is 100%,
Yes.
right? So then I'm like, okay, so let's look at yield, right? That means that in 2019, yield was 6%, right? In 2023, right now, yield is 7.5%. Obviously, this is gross yield, right?
Right.
Not taking into consideration
Yes, that's
service
fair
charges
enough.
and etc. Right? And then I said, okay, now I like making things a bit more complicated, but also it helps our audience make a more objective view.
Absolutely.
I said, when I adjust, right, because the UAE, the dirham is pegged to the US dollar.
Yes.
So I wanted to adjust it from an international investor's point of view. I wanted to adjust today's price for inflation, right? And with that said, right, that 2 million dirhams, right, today's price is actually worth 1.67 or let's say 1.65
Yeah.
in 2019 money
19.
because the value of the money is depreciated
True.
because of inflation.
Yes.
And then I said, okay, let me look at another worst case scenario, right? What if I buy that property today for 2 million dirhams and it ends up renting for 80,000 dirhams? So I buy it for a 2023 price
Rented at
and it rents
2019.
for 2019 price.
Yes.
That yield goes down from 7.5% to 4%,
Right.
right? And then I thought, and this is where I wanted to also, hear your thoughts and your wisdom. If my downside as an investor is 4% rental yield, is that so bad?
It's not that bad if you see globally.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're taking worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Right. You're taking a worst case scenario that the rents drop by, 50% from today's level. Right?
Even more.
Even more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you see 4% rental yield for a lot of people, especially if you see investors who are coming from Europe or India or, other parts of the world, even 4% rental yield is quite considered good.
Yeah.
Okay.
San Francisco
it's
or in the
exactly.
Bay Area, it's less than 2%.
And not to forget, it's again tax free, right? It's not taxed. Your income is not taxed here. So
true.
so if you compare it that way, it's still not bad. Yes, if you see Dubai as a city, yes, someone would be like 4% is too low, but in a worst case scenario, you have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still getting a 4% yield.
I looked at the same. I looked at a similar case for a 5 bedroom villa in JVT.
Yeah.
So same property, it was selling for 3.8 million in 2019.
Yeah.
It is today selling for 5.5, nearly 6
Right.
million. Right.
Yes.
Rent, however, and it's crazy what's happening. Right. It was renting for 180,000. It is now renting at 350.
True.
But I then applied the same exact logic, and I realized that again, even if rents scale back, I'm still hovering around a little less than 5%.
Yes.
One factor that I wanted to hear your thoughts on is, and it's almost a conclusive factor for me, right? Because I always like to, when I think of Dubai real estate from an investor's point of view, I always like to compare it against other global cities,
Right.
right? Or other, let's say, destinations or regions around the world. One key factor that I don't think we talk about much is interest rates,
Yes.
right? And I think this is a unique case for the UAE, that rental yields are significantly higher than mortgage rates,
Yes, it is.
right?
True.
So on, even in levered IRR, or if I'm leveraging the property,
Yes.
my cash on cash return is at an advantage or better here in Dubai than it is in most mature cities.
Absolutely.
Because in the US, for example, a market that I'm familiar with,
Yeah.
interest rates are now, roughly in the mid sevens, or 7.5%
Correct.
on average. In Dubai, we're still originating loans at Mortgage Finder for 4.5%,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
4.5,
Yeah.
4.75, whatever it is,
Five,
it's less
about
than
five
less than
percent.
five.
Say.
Now, and then when I look at it is in Dubai, and this is the only market that I see behaving this way, and it's pretty that actually, in terms of my confidence on whether or not there is a bubble in Dubai, I feel so much better about the market once I
Yes.
looked at it from that angle. Is that we're noticing that your rental yields are much better or higher than
Right.
interest rates.
Yes.
And that to me is also a positive
See,
indication.
there are two things. One is, yes, definitely your rent is covering, your mortgage payments. So now, whether you're an end user
Mm.
or you're an investor, if you're an end user, it's still better to pay off the mortgage than paying rent.
Mm.
You're actually saving money, you know. And if you're an investor, you are, your rent is, your property is actually paying for itself, because the rent is easily covering the mortgage. Also, one more thing which needs to, you need to factor in it, that Dubai as a market overall, unlike say other markets like the US or UK, where majority of the buyers are finance buyers and mortgage buyers, that's not the case in Dubai.
Yeah. 40%, I
Yes,
think, of secondary ready properties are
are
bought with
mo-
a
are
mortgage.
mortgage buyers.
Yeah.
So it's so the people who are coming to buy properties here are not necessarily looking at leveraging the banks.
Mm.
Yes, there are people who are, but a majority of the buyers are buying with their own money.
But why is that though? I mean, why aren't even international investors utilizing mortgages to
I
do,
mean,
do you think?
look, one
Because in
is
the US, it's what, nearly
yes,
75% of property
yes,
purchases are with a
exactly.
mortgage.
See, one thing is that people are getting great rental returns, right?
Mm.
So if you were to invest the money somewhere and get whatever returns, they're getting 8%, 9%, or sometimes even 10%
Mm.
return on their property, which is phenomenal. You don't really see that happening anywhere else in the world. Also, because I feel there are a lot of people who come, in the region especially, are not so much into taking mortgages.
Mm.
Also, a lot of investors, they don't want to leverage. They just want their investments to be safe, fully paid up, and giving them cash flow. We've seen a lot of investors investing to get good cash flow, regular rental return. Uh, and there are people who, keep buying units after units after some time, in an
Mm.
interval, and build up a property portfolio just to get a good rental return. There's so many people who've invested and they just don't want to sell. They are getting amazing rent. I know some investors who've collected more than what they've invested out of rent in say 10 years, and the properties are literally free.
Yeah.
So that's also the case. So also, I think the mindset in the region is not so much into taking mortgages, unlike the US, where majority of the transactions, the first thing you do is, what's the mortgage like?
It's true.
But investors over here are not so much into mortgages. Yes, a lot of end users now are taking mortgages for ready properties, because it's better than paying off rent,
Mm.
and the trend is definitely continuing.
Yeah. And even and from an end user perspective,
Yes.
so we have a hidden gem. I like to call it a hidden gem, and at Property Finder. So under Explore, Data Guru, somewhere hidden
Yeah.
in the website, you have something called the rent versus buy calculator.
Yes.
So our team worked on this amazing tool, and what it demonstrates to you is that the one variable. So this is from the perspective of somebody who's buying to live.
Yes.
People ask me this question all the time:
True.
should I buy or rent? And that's why we wanted to develop this tool to help people make that decision
Decision.
objectively. And what we realized, just pure math, the only variable that matters in making this decision is how long you plan on staying in the property. you're able to within, so as long as you live in the property 2-3 years,
Yeah,
right, you're definitely almost in absolute terms better off buying than renting. And I think what's been driving so much of that behavior, Tahir, is the rental notice.
absolutely.
People are finding
It's a
themselves with a
nightmare.
new reality, and that's putting pressure on them to go out and buy. And I think it's a good thing.
Yes, it is a
More
good
home
thing.
ownership in Dubai,
Yes,
more organic home buying behavior.
yes, absolutely.
Um,
Also, what happens is this makes the market more matured,
yeah.
right? Because a lot of people are now buying. They're thinking of Dubai as a long-term place, and this whole perspective of Dubai being just a place for a few years has changed.
Mm.
That also has contributed a lot to the growth. What we've seen in the last 2-3 years is because now people are thinking that no, I want to live here. I want to spend my life here. I don't want to leave Dubai.
So let me ask you a question. If and my advice is, I personally, I'm doing it myself. I don't like to advise people anything that I don't do.
Yes.
We, my family and I, we bought a property recently.
Yeah.
I'm a very strong believer in the city.
True.
Um,
Same here.
uh, the question is, we all have family members, relatives, cousins, friends that come to Dubai and ask us for advice. In one sentence, right? Somebody who's buying to live, would you say yes or no?
Yes.
Somebody who is coming to invest, would you say invest in Dubai, or I don't know, go put your money in Turkey or Spain or London or any other?
Invest in Dubai.
The last one is, if somebody owns an apartment
Yes.
or a villa in Dubai, or owns a portfolio of real estate properties, bought it back in 2017, 18 at a much lower price.
Yes.
A lot of those people are sitting on almost double their money.
Yeah.
Would you say sell or hold?
Look, for this, you need to evaluate what you have in your portfolio. Just like how you would evaluate a stock portfolio, that which shares you want to sell and which ones you want to keep. So it depends. It's a very, I would say, depending on the property, some I would advise to sell, depending on the area and what you bought it at, what it's reached. Some I would say sell, hold.
Now, the last question, right? 2022 year over year saw a 12% appreciation.
Yes.
Year over year since 2022, so now we're in Q3 23,
Right.
we're seeing another 18% home price appreciation.
Yes.
So 12% followed by 18%.
Yes.
Where do you think we're going next year?
I think we're going towards stabilization.
Okay.
Markets needs to stabilize a bit before it jumps more, in my opinion. I could be totally wrong, but I feel that somewhere, it has to stabilize for people to absorb these prices, these rents, and then it should move ahead.
How about those voices that tell you that Dubai, and even there's the real estate bubble index, and there's so much sophisticated research out
Yes.
there that shows you Dubai on the global bubble index,
Yes.
and it highlights Dubai being an undervalued real estate market. What are your thoughts on this?
See, on the whole, if you see the market in general, I don't see a bubble. I don't see, yes, it is undervalued if you compare it to comparable major cities around the world.
Are you worried about an oversupply case in the coming
Look,
2 years?
oversupply, not right, because see, whatever projects are coming in today, not everything is going to get handed over in 1 or 2 years. The projects which are coming out, which will get handed over in 27, 28, right? And we all know that, always there's some delays can happen. Okay. So it's not that all this inventory is going to get ready in one go.
And the way I see it, Tahir, I mean, even when we looked at this data,
Yeah.
right, with rent prices clearly moving at almost double the pace of sale prices, I think that's also a clear indication that the demand is there.
100%.
We see demand metrics on Property Finder,
Yes.
and I think, look, in so many ways, having lived, I've been fortunate enough to have lived here for the last 12 years, and I've been coming back and forth
Yeah.
to Dubai since 2017, where a lot of what you see used to be holes in 2007. Sorry,
Yeah.
when a lot of what we see used to be holes in the ground. My conclusion after all these years is, I think this truly is a phenomenal city.
It is a lovely
It's
city.
the success story of all success stories.
100%.
And I always, honestly, what I tell people is never bet against Dubai.
No, 100%. Look, the way the city is growing, the way they execute, and I always tell people, it's not just about the vision, but it's about the execution. When they put out a plan, they know how to achieve it, right? They know how to do it. So I'm not worried about that Dubai as a city. I love it, and I truly believe in this city. and I see that there's a lot of potential in the city, and it's going in the right direction. So definitely, the city has. I mean, it's one of the best cities in the world. I mean, I've traveled to so many cities around the world, and before I moved to Dubai, like, okay, I used to travel a lot here before, since 2005. But once I moved here and I spent a few years, after that, when I travel now to other cities, my perception has changed. I
I just
mean,
want to come
it's
back.
you just want to come back.
Yeah,
And the moment you land in Dubai and you come out in
yeah,
the airport, you're like, oh my God, thank God I'm back.
yeah.
It's that feeling, it's some people say, no, this is that, but it is what it is. Like, once you live here, you get so used to this city that it's,
I'll leave you with a really quick story. I remember 2006. I was living in California. My brother-in-law came over to visit, and I'd take him around, show him places like, yeah, Dubai, Dubai, Dubai. And at the time, I'd get annoyed. I'm like, what do you mean Dubai? This is
yeah.
heaven, right? Now I was in
Yeah.
LA late July in the summer, and this is again summer. I kid you not. About 4 or 5 days into it, take me back to Dubai. I'm done.
Yes.
So, Tahir, thank you so very much for making the
Most
time. We
welcome.
very much
Thanks for
enjoyed
having me.
having you here. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.